Hey, what's up, everybody? Yeah, it's Dom McDaniel. I'm of adfreeshows.com, SEScoops.com, and brassringmedia.com. Check it out. I'm here by myself. Not totally by myself because I'm here with you guys. Robert is on assignment. He's in New York City. Woo! So he is not here today, but I am here, and I'm here with you guys. So let's say hi to some folks in the chat. We got Johnny Disco saying happy Friday, aren't I? Thank you, Johnny. Good to see you always. Tony Gong says, a little late, but what happened on the third hour of Dynamite? I can't find it anywhere on Max. It's on Collision. So type in Collision and that'll pop up. If you can find Collision on there. I don't think have I ever watched Collision on Max? I don't know. Has anybody watched Collision on Max? It should be on there though. Tony Gong. That's why you cannot catch the third hour. So look for AEW Collision, and hopefully that'll solve your problems. Dre Owen says, hello, Warren. I got out of work early. No Jacob Fatu until 2026. Is that true? I didn't see that. I got to check the dirt sheets here before I do the I might check them after I do the prediction segment here. Excuse me. Jeff Hedinger says, hello, Warren. I surprised AEW doesn't have a Wrestle Fever Dream PvP 2 weeks after this one. Yeah, right. My goodness. Dre Owens says, Tony, it should be under Collision. That's right. Dom Solo, that is correct. As Johnny Disco said. Nothing past the 11th. Wow. Really, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. If you can't find that, yeah, like Johnny Disco said, it is. I have watched it a couple times. The Max interface is terrible. And then Tony Gong says, thanks. Anyways, guys, it'll show up eventually. Will it? We don't know. Hey, but we showed up to here today, and we're here to talk a little bit of AEW WrestleDream. But before I decide to do that, let's go dive into the dirt sheets and see what is on tap here. Is Jacob Fatu actually really hurt? Let's see what we can find on here. Let's see. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Is he starting up a podcast again? The Texas Rattlesnake has always been away from the world for podcasting for a bit now, as the last episode of Broken Skull Sessions aired back in 2022. On Instagram, a fan recently asked Stone Cold about new podcast episodes, when to expect them. Austin shared some positive news, telling fans to give him a couple weeks. Interesting. It's currently unclear if Austin's talking about the Broken Skull Sessions, Steve Austin podcast, or a new venture entirely, but we'll update fans when they know more about the situation. Teddy Long recently stated that he would have brought in Steve Austin to face John Cena in his final match, which will take place in December. Fans can check out Long's full comments. Interesting. Boy, could you imagine Steve Austin as John Cena's final opponent? That would be pretty cool. Boy, would that take away from Cena's final match, though? Because Austin he's a legendary name. And so, you have him. That's the tough thing. I mean, very memorable. Man, that's wild. That'd be a wild concept to go with. That didn't even fathom that one. Trying to see if there's anything really cooking when it comes to Jacob Fatu, if anybody else heard about anything like that. But looking. Not seeing anything. Either way, we do have some other things to talk about when it comes to WrestleDream. What's going on there? We should preview SmackDown too, I suppose, right? Jeff Hanger does give you a suggestion, Tony Gong, on how to watch that if you look in the chat. So there are ways around it if you have that desire. But let's take a gander here at the AEW WrestleDream card. Me and Robert went over that 3-hour Dynamite, the 1 hour that Tony Gong did not catch as well. And to be honest, Tony, you really didn't miss a whole lot, I would say. Wasn't. It was a fine show. It was okay. Typical AEW show. Dynamite, little confusing. And stuff didn't make. Some stuff made sense. Some stuff didn't. Some stuff was compelling. I'm speaking as the whole, not just that Collision part. I'm saying that John Moxley and Darby segment I thought was really, really good, albeit a bit long, but I still thought it was good. But let's see about WrestleDream here. So, how many matches do we have on tap? Straight up matches. Let's not. I'm not counting. Now we have 4 preliminary matches, which will go to. Man, that's just dirty though. Look. So we have 1. That's 4. That is okay. So if anybody can guess without looking at the card, how many matches are actually on the card for WrestleDream, you may be impressed by AEW at their discretion this time around. Because, yeah, if anybody takes some guess at the numbers of what matches are on tap for Dre Owens says 9 so far, probably. Jeff says 8. All right, any other guesses before we continue? But I will go over the preliminary matches real quick, which is very strange. Some of these should actually be on the main card in exchange for what is on the main card. Like this, for example, FTR taking on Jet Speed. This is on the preliminary show that everybody can watch. It feels like a kind of a pay-per-view match. Like, I mean, FTR got TV time this past Wednesday on the main show, not Collision. And then we had Eddie Kingston and Hook taking on a random tag team. They were also featured briefly, very briefly, and they're on the preliminary show. Eddie Kingston is such a big name for AEW and a big baby face, and like Hook too. And they're just on this preliminary show. This is confusing. Boy, I was not. I'm happy with the question I asked Tony Khan yesterday, and like he gave a good answer, like in a certain way. I thought, like in regards to what I asked him, is he going to have a training facility? Like, because there were reports that they were going to open a training facility. Somebody mentioned that in the chat yesterday, I believe it was. And then I thought it was a good question to ask, so I asked him, are there plans for a training facility? And Tony Khan said, yes. Well, I'd love to have a training facility and, a developmental facility. And then he kayfabed in a lot of ways, saying like FTR and Adam Copeland were planning to do something, and then tension happened between the two, and now we do not have that. But at some point, I believe that they will get back together and that we will have a training facility. So he kind of kayfabed away, which I give respect to. Tony keeps the kayfabe alive, and but so yeah, he gave a good answer. But like, if I knew these were preliminary matches, I'd be like, why? What's the thought process of putting Eddie and Hook and FTR on your preliminary show and not your actual show? Because that's a head scratcher. Also on the preliminary show is Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale taking on the Divine Vanity, which is Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. Did not know that was their name, their tag team name. Also, Roderick Strong and the conglomeration will be taking on the Death Ladders in multi-band tag action, 8-man tag team match. Roderick Strong has separated himself from the conglomeration, but he is part of Paragon still. And so I wonder if they'll do anything in regards to that. All right, let's take a look here. Did anybody add any further guesses as to how many matches are on? Johnny Disco says 100 or 5. So that's quite the range. So there we go. Randall Joseph says, keep grinding, my brother. Thank you. If that's for me. Thanks, Randall. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's like the pre-show is a second hour of Collision. Yeah, basically, right? All right, so the prize, which is no prize, goes to Jeff Henniger. It is 8 matches on the card. Hopefully you didn't look. But yeah, let's go over, cover some of this ground, and get some thought. I'll give you some of my thoughts here on what is presented here for AEW WrestleDream in St. Louis, Missouri. My goodness, St. Louis, Missouri. But before we do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about a perfect gene. That's right. Genes are everybody's flawed in this world, right? We're all flawed. We all have our mistakes, and you know, just we're human. But you know what? There is such a thing as a perfect gene because the perfect gene has made it for you. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing this pair right here. These are Joker Blues, and I love them. They're my favorite pair of jeans I own, and that is not a lie. That is a shoot 100%. The best pair of jeans I've ever owned come courtesy of the perfect gene. And man, we're me and Robert are both happy to have them as a sponsor. And the nice thing about it is, like, you can pick any style, not just Joker Blue. They have plenty of other styles. They have plenty of other fits for you. So depending on what your waistline is and what your pants length is, it ranges. And like literally, like I'm on the not so tall side, so they have length sizes that fit my needs, and they have length sizes that fit taller people's needs. So you can check it out and pick and choose what you want. And if they don't fit you, you can send them right back. And it's free shipping because guess what? It's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectgene.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use code RUMOR15 at checkout. That's it. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectgene.nyc, or you can Google The Perfect Gene with promo code RUMOR15. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that Rumor and Innuendo sent you. F your khakis and get The Perfect Gene. So yes, thank you, Perfect Gene. All right. More comments here before we get to the show. The Marvel no prize. Congrats, Jeff Hanger. Yes, everybody wish congratulations, Jeff Hanger, for the prize he's not going to receive. Dre Owen says the real question is, will the pay-per-view be done before Raw on Monday? Right? Jeez. Holy cats. Jeff says, thanks. Total guess. Do I pick up my prize or do I drive to Pittsburgh to pick it up? If you just want, I can give it to you right here. Here. There's your prize. Congrats, Jeff. All right, let's go down. Let's run down the card. We have Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley in an I Quit match. We've seen this song and dance before. Jon Moxley lost to Darby, I believe. No, am I wrong on that? Somebody got put in a coffin in the coffin match. It was Darby. So Darby, I guess, lost, right? And now they have an I Quit match. Robert put the interesting bug in my ear, that all it would take for Darby to really get behind the Death Riders agenda is getting rid of Jon Moxley. And what compelling television that would be, and a good reset button that would be for this angle if Darby Allin were to take over the Death Riders. Whether that's as a heel or a babyface, I could be convinced it's swayed either way, to be honest, at this point in time, just because I just don't like the angle in general. So I'm going to say that Jon Moxley will say, I quit, and Darby Allin will be your winner, and then there'll be some changes afoot. Whether that's the Death Riders get broken up, or maybe they do side with Darby, or they all turn on Jon Moxley, or a little bit of both. But yes, I think Darby Allin gets the win. Jon Moxley says, I quit, and hopefully there's changes afoot here at the Circle K. All right, we also have an AEW World Championship match. That is Adam Hangman Page, the world champion, taking on Samoa Joe. The final build to this was not as compelling as it should have been, but I thought, considering maybe some of the time that they had, that Joe is such a pro that he made his reasoning and his conviction believable when he wants to go up against Hangman Page for this title. So build hasn't been ultimate here, but I do think this will be a pretty darn fun match. Hangman Page will get the win. Joe and him will exchange a matter of respect. Tony Khan had high praise on the conference call for Samoa Joe, saying how much value he added to the AEW product, what a leader and professional he is, both on and off the screen. And he was very pleasantly surprised when Samoa Joe came to AEW because he didn't even imagine that would be a possibility at the time. So, lots of respect for Joe, and I'm sure some of that respect will be reciprocated actually on this on-air angle and match between Hangman and Samoa Joe. So I think Hangman Page gets the win here. We'll have another World Championship match this time with the women. It will be Chris Statlander, your champ, going up against Timeless Tony Storm. Chris Statlander retains. I think this is a pretty easy one to kind of lay out in certain ways because, I think Tony Storm is if anybody on the roster, AEW roster, is the capability to be Teflon, it's Tony Storm. I think she can take a loss here, especially to someone like Statlander, still feel relevant, still feel like one of AEW's top stars, and she still will be too. So Chris Statlander and her going back and forth should be pretty cool. And their final build was pretty compelling. I was very much on the show before Dynamite cynical about what could transpire between these two because I just wasn't sold on it. Still, like to an extent, I'm just like, yeah, sure, it's a match, but I think they did a pretty good job at making it giving it some juice behind it by how they executed it all on Dynamite. They kicked off Dynamite with that for the most part, and where they had this backstage segment and it bled out into the ring, and they brought it out in the ring, which I thought was really, really good. I'm liking what this match is laying down. Now, I've been a critic of the cash prize matches, but Robert too also made the point that from what's been going on with the Young Bucks and them blowing all this money, so that $500,000 cash prize match, this one does make sense, and so yeah, I can kind of buy it. Just the price tag is just an exorbitant amount of money. That's a lot of money. Come on, for matches here and there. It kind of takes the suspension of disbelief out of it for me in certain ways. But we do have Jurassic Express going up against Young Bucks. I think you just paired Jack Perry and Luchasaurus back up. They just reunited. Don't think you'd do them any favors by having them take the loss here. So I do think Jurassic Express gets the win, and they have the $500,000, and the Young Bucks are still out on their luck. And I think we're going to go on a journey where the Young Bucks ultimately are turning babyface. I just have a hunch about it. I'm not saying I'll be right or not. So far, all my predictions involve the babyface winning, if you've noticed. Well, Statlander and Tony Storm are both baby faces, so either way I could. But yeah, so far I have the baby faces coming out on top. This one will be different though. It's Kyle Fletcher and it's Mark Briscoe, the singles match for the AEW TNT Championship. This will be a fun match, but they have not really done a whole lot to make you think that Briscoe has a shot here. Briscoe has been a steady presence, but he's not been as a primary of a presence as he probably should be, on Dynamite. He's again like an Eddie Kingston, in that Eddie Kingston role of being this big likable babyface that should be utilized in a much more bigger fashion. So this will be a fun match. Kyle Fletcher will get the win, and he'll continue his streak as your TNT champion. So there's your first heel win that I have on tap here. Excuse me. We also have a tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. It's Brodito. That's Bandito and Brody King, your champs, taking on Don Callis family. That's Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. Oh my God. I've been on a streak of saying it right in there. I just kind of butchered it. But fun stuff between Okada and Takeshita, considering what happened on Dynamite. Okada turning off the television while Konosuke was giving his happy birthday speech to Don Callis. Pretty fun stuff. It is really, really funny. I could see a world where they actually win the tag team championships and then they have to coexist for a while. But I think that would just prolong what a feud we're already that's really kind of boiling over at this point. So Brodito wins. They retain. Tension continues to flare up between these two, Okada and Takeshita, and we're off to the races here. This one's a coin toss coming up here. It's Jamie Hayter and Thekla. Both of these women probably should not be losing at this juncture. Jamie Hayter's been off and on with injury, and she's kind of still trying to remain relevant. She got the win on Dynamite, so that, says something. But Thekla is also a new star. You're really trying. I mean, I think AEW could do a better job with both these women in presenting them on a bigger scale. But like Thekla has not had a lot of spotlight time either. So this is a tough one. I'm going to say that I think Thekla wins, maybe with the help of her faction that she has with Julia Hart and Sky Blue. So maybe there's that going. So yeah, that's my prediction on that one. Maybe Willow comes out and makes a save later on. Who knows? But because I think she's kind of involved with that. And here we go. We got a Tornado Trios match. It's the Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP taking on the Demand. That's Ricochet, Bishop Khan, and Toa Liona. So we had the Demand winning underhandedly on Dynamite in tag action, which I was pleasantly surprised by the way. But I do think you need to hammer home this point about the Demand, and that Ricochet is really, really good with these two, and the Gates of Agony. And so I think you can again have MVP take the pinfall because he's involved in this match. You have MVP take the pinfall, then the Hurt Syndicate kind of can refocus their efforts in other directions. I think you can definitely get Bobby Lashley in that world title picture. Perhaps, obviously with Hangman Page being there. I think Shelton Benjamin, man, what a contender he would be for Kyle Fletcher in that TNT championship, or, in some sort of other relevant fashion. And I think this could signify maybe the end of the Hurt Syndicate as a tag team, but the Hurt Syndicate move on in their singles roles like that, we initially probably had them pinned for anyways. So I will make the prediction that the Demand will get the win here again, and we will see further things transpire moving forward here. Triple E's in the house. What's up? Thekla equals Tekla. Am I saying it wrong this whole time? Tekla? That sounds like the right way to say it. Tekla. I think Trey Owens is right. And I'm. Brodito is losing those belts, or Okada causes Takeshita to get blinked, to get pinned. I think I still think Brodito's keeping those titles for right now. I think they're going to lose to somebody else. I don't think they'll lose to Takeshita and Okada. Let's see. Dre Owen says, it feels like we only get title storylines with the women. Yeah, that's right, doesn't it? That's what it feels like. Everything else in the women's division feels like there's some story, but it happens on Collision, or there is no story and they rush it together on one episode. And that's not an impression you want to give off. Let's see what Devin Dowling has to say. A lot of the top guys going to Top Guy Weekend. Yeah, that's right. To meet Jack Perry and Luchasaurus in the hotel lobby last night. Oh, got to meet. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, I believe that. Top Guy Weekend's going on down in St. Louis, Missouri. Fun environment. Always Top Guy Weekend. Last Top Guy Weekend I was in Tampa with them, I think. That might not have been the last Top Guy Weekend, but that's the last one I was at. And I want to say that was for Royal Rumble 2 years ago or something. But yeah, it's a good time. I got to meet Jack Perry actually in a hotel lobby in Pittsburgh, nonetheless. He was very nice. I've spoken with I've interviewed Luchasaurus before in a media scrum. That was way back at StarCast 4. So I got to speak with both those guys before. Johnny Disco says it's actually 500 grand candy bars. No one is reading the contract carefully. Oh, that would be great. That would be pretty funny. I could see that actually happening. Devin Dowling says, I think a heel Ruby Soho attacks Tony Storm post match. Now that would be good. I like that. Ruby Soho just opened a game store with her husband, Luke Parker, Angelo Parker. Oh, yeah, because he was called Cool Hand Ange, right? That's what Chris called Jericho. By the way, that was the fastest I've seen Tony Khan run through questions during the media call in a while, if ever. Yeah, he plowed through some of those. He gave some longer answers for sure, but yeah, overall, like he was pretty quick with some of them. Is Tony going to go through every decade of Hollywood to freshen up her gimmick? I don't know. That's kind of intriguing. There's a lot of things that I'm sure she can do creatively, like her and RJ City are definitely on the pulse of all that. Wrestling Old Head adds, I think Storm losing and further descending into complete madness is a good progression of her character. Wrestling Old Head, I actually read your email. So yes, I am down for that. Just let me know. Yeah, thanks for the notice in advance too. So yeah, I think I should certainly be able to facilitate a time that works for you too. So just let me know. I'll reply to you in an email as well, just so you can confirm. Hangman's keeping that title warm for Swerve Strickland, says Devin Dowling. Yeah, I don't know. I think there needs to. We'll see how this run continues here with Hangman. I think you can kind of have a pretty good, solid run with him as your world champ, and then drop it to the appropriate person. Devin Dowling's last Top Guy weekend he went to was in Chicago in 2022. That was for All Out too, right? That was for one of the All Outs. They usually do that for AEW and stuff. Yeah, that was a good one, I think, if I remember that one. I was definitely at that one too, I believe, Devin. For sure, I think, actually. Boy, 2022, that's 3 years ago. It's crazy. Trey Owen says Lashley and Shelton could turn on MVP if they lose and they get a new member, Swerve. I think they're going to remain a faction still for sure. I don't think there'll be any fracture in the Hurt Syndicate because what's next for MVP unless he decides to just leave? You know, so I think MVP will stick around. So yeah, there we go. Let's see what they have on tap for SmackDown, and then we'll close out the show. Then let's see SmackDown preview. Oh, I still got to vote in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. I have the ballot. Meltzer sent me the ballot, and so I have to take a look at the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. I know who I certainly want to get inducted, and that's Sputnik Monroe. Do anybody know who Sputnik Monroe was? He was like a wrestler in the Amarillo area for a good amount of time, I believe. But I mean, he was Terry Funk's first ever match, and Sputnik Monroe really broke the color barrier too in certain ways. He was a white guy, but he happened to really be forward thinking when it came to race relations and stuff like that. I believe he dated African American women and stuff like that as well. There's much more reason that he should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. But those are some significant stuff, that he has contributed to the world, the wrestling world, and he should not be somebody that kind of gets forgotten. So I think he deserves a Hall of Fame nomination. Also on the ballot, I know too, as an on-wrestlers, Gorilla Monsoon was shocked that he was not on there or already in there. Another name that might shock you too, Grand Wizard was not in there. And then there was another name though that I was like, wow, they're not in the Hall of Fame yet. Who was it? The case was made for somebody. Oh, Junkyard Dog. Junkyard Dog is not in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame yet either. So he's on the ballot as well. I'll have to take a look at what else is going down. Maybe I'll talk about that next week or something as well with Robert a little bit if he's intrigued. All right, let's take a look at the SmackDown preview. We'll do this courtesy of PW Torch, where I first contributed wrestling related writing matters. So, um, if that was AAA, who brought up Jacob Fatu, he's competing tonight on SmackDown. It's Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu. And we are back in the United States. It's San Jose, California. So it's kind of Fatu's backyard in certain ways. I know he's a 49ers fan. So we have Drew McIntyre taking on Jacob Fatu. Should be fun. We have Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss teaming up against, Sol Ruka and Zarya. So the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship is online. That should be a fun match too. And then Cody Rhodes is set to appear as well. What will be next for Cody after his match with Seth? So should be fun. Cody's always feels like appointment television. And I think, him when he left, I've said this millions and millions of times, but when he left AEW, it just felt like a gut shot that they have never recovered from. And because he felt like appointment television for AEW. And he's been reflecting that, I think, in WWE since he's been there. He's just his presence. Kevin Nash recently said on his Click This podcast that Cody's the best wrestling promo going today. Not counting John Cena because John Cena is part-time. So, in the case is certainly can be made for Cody being your best promo right now. I always think Punk is in the mix, but for sure, MJF's up there. But Cody as a babyface, I mean, he's hitting the right notes, and he consistently does it on a really good basis because, like, when he shows up, it's like, oh, we're gonna see something here, and we do more often than not see something. Even if it's a minor little segment, like, I think Cody makes what he does extremely compelling, and it's a tough thing to do in a lot of ways. Jeff Henniger says the only time he's ever heard about Sputnik Monroe was through Jim Cornette. Me and him are good friends, so yeah, we communicate a lot about Sputnik Monroe. Me and Jim. Interesting. Now, I like where your head's at here, Dre Owens. MVP brings back MJF. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Man, that's some good thinking. So you pair MJF up with MVP against Bobby Lashley and Shelton. I like that. I think that's really clever, actually. Good job, man. Let's get Tony Khan, get Dre Owens on the phone here. Dre Owens also adds Aleister Black and Zelina finally being acknowledged on TV. I like that too. Yeah, I like that too. I think when you can blur those lines, everybody was pretty in on it. If you're a inundated wrestling fan, like a lot of us are, like probably all of us are. If you're tuning into a show like this, you're probably inundated into the wrestling world. So the fact that Aleister Black and Zelina have been in a relationship, I believe they're married. Then, like, why not convey that on television in a fun manner? So definitely, might be pretty neat to see like this dark version of Zelina Vega, as we move forward here. So cool. So that's the SmackDown preview, and that also was the AEW WrestleDream preview. Thank you all for tuning in. I will be back on Monday. I think Robert's still out on Monday. If I'm not mistaken. I know he's gone for the weekend, but he might not be back Monday. But either way, we'll preview Raw. We'll talk about WrestleDream. We'll talk about anything else that develops too in the world of pro wrestling. And moving forward, there we go. So as far as anything else goes, if you haven't yet, check out my interview with Enzo Amore, aka Real One. Get the skinny on what he's up to. This is his first pro wrestling interview he's done in years, apparently, he told me. And so, but we cover Fourth Rope. That's a West Side Guns promotion. And he lays out the cases to why it is the next growing underground promotion that there is, and that it's not like just some independent promotion. This is a show that runs monthly and that will only get bigger. So he covers a lot of ground, though. He covers about his history in NXT, his exit from WWE. He dives into some cool John Cena stories, gives a little bit of breaking news about a certain wrestler that just left WWE not too long ago, and plenty more covered in that. So check it out. That's up right now, brassringmedia.com. Once you do tune into that, please give the video a like, maybe comment on it, and just so it gets a little traction, help me out. Big plans planned for that channel, by the way. So keep your eyes on tap for that as well. But thank you all for tuning in. Draylon says, "Have a good weekend. Off to see Black Phone 2." Man, the little trailer for that, what I saw was creepy. Didn't even know there was a Black Phone 1. I didn't even know what Black Phone was about, but seeing that trailer, I was like, holy cats, that's a creepy looking movie. Ethan Hawke's involved in that, I know. Need an interview with the King of the Indies, Marcus D'Angelo. I interview him almost every day when we talk to each other on the phone. So, I speak to that guy enough. Tell you that much. Jeff Henniger says the only way to gauge AEW's PvPs is with Robert's reviews. Is either hell of a PvP or what the hell are they doing? That's right. No one either way. Johnny Disco says, "Have a nice day." AAA says, "You watch him horror movie." I'm not into that. I like football. I don't need to blend it in with a horror movie. No thanks. But hey, it's one of those weird ones. It's by oh my god, is it Jordan Peele that does these? Yeah, like he does the yeah, it's Jordan Peele, like the Get Out movies and stuff like that. So this is a new version of that, is what Triple D is referring to. So if that's your cup of tea, check it out. But yeah, just not my cup of tea, I don't think. But hey, hopefully I'm your cup of tea on Monday. I'll see you then. Thanks to everybody. You can tune us in every Monday through Friday at WE_Creative_ish X account, at the Dominic D'Angelo X account, at the SE Scoops X account, and on YouTube at Ad Free Shows, Rumor and Innuendo, and oh, you didn't know? So be sure to do that. And thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Have fun. And stay warm if you're in the Northeast, because it's got a little chilly, even though it's supposed to be nice this weekend. So let's go Jets. They're horrible. Maybe they'll get a win for me this week. And I'll see you Monday. All right. Peace up. 8 Town down. Boom.